Let's now try to see the XML file structure to understand it a little bit more, because sometimes you may want to modify the contents of the XML file, but let's have some basic understanding. Okay, so make sure you can locate under app, res, layout, you have your XML file for your view. And from our previous developments, we have this GUI components develop. Okay, we got some text view, we got some edit text, we also got button, we also got more text view. Okay, and you can see from the component tree panel over here, this shows you the layout of the GUI components. We got text view, edit text view, edit text. Also for each GUI components, we got the ID, unique identifiers, and also we got the text over here. Okay, so this is from the design view over here. If you click on text, this is the XML document over here. Let's try to understand this a little bit more. It's not too bad. At least you want to understand how the sections can be divided in the documents. Let's try to see this one here, and then I will show you a slightly simplified file to go over some basic terminology. Okay, the beginning line over here is simply some starter line. That's standard. You don't have to memorize it. Okay, it's just always there. And over here, you can see relative layout over here. So this is so-called a tag. Whenever you see the left, it's called open brackets. So like a less than sign in your mathematics. And this is a greater than sign. So this is the whole thing. Okay, sorry. So the whole thing over here is called a tag. T-A-G, tag. We'll go over all the basic terminology in just a moment. Okay, so this is a section over here, and then you can see that at the end of the document we have some matching tag to close that tag. You can see this one here is called relative layout, and notice that we do have something like a forward slash over here. Okay, I'll just highlight a forward slash over here, relative layout. You can see the tag name is, and the tag is called relative layout, and this is also relative layout. Okay. Okay, there's an element in the documents. Okay, and then we got for this particular tag, the element is a relative layout, and then we got different attributes for this particular tag, for this particular elements, which means the layout has either tools, you have a width, it has height, it has button, and etc. And each one of them has an equal sign over here to say for this particular attribute, it has the following value. Okay. Okay. Well, I'll show you the simplified version to give you some visual guidance. And then over here, you can see that under relative layout, that's why we say it's a tree structure. Okay, just go back to the design view very quickly. You can see under relative layout, under which we got this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Let's see how that can be counted in the text view. You can see under the relative layout over here, we should have 8 different sections, right? Okay, what's the first section? This is the first section over here, and this is just another tag. You can have tags within the text. That's why you can have tags within text. That's why we say it's a tree structure. Okay, text view over here, and then edit text, and remember that's the for the name label, right? And also number 3. Okay, and over here number 4 and number 5, and then number 6 and number 7, and then we have number 8. Okay, we have 8. So again, so these two views should be seamlessly equivalent. Okay, and then for each tag, again, we got this is so-called attributes and equals some value. And then this is the elements of the tag. Okay. Okay, once you understand the big picture, it's not too bad to actually understand what this document is trying to say. Of course, you never memorize the contents for the XML. You have to know if you want to modify just a little bit in the document where you should go. Okay, let's now try to have a little bit better view to explain the terminology. Okay, so this is a slightly simplified version there. We still got relative layout, and also here I just show you 1, 2, 3, 3 rather than 8. Just because of limited space. Okay, let's first of all just review the terminology that I just said verbally. For each XML document, so these are the terms you should know. Okay, so first of all, you have something called tags, T-A-G, and also for each tag, you have to specify the name of the elements, and then for each element, you may have one or more attributes, and for each attribute, you should say equal to some value, and the value should really be quoted within double quotes, values like that. And then there's something called self-closing text. Let me just show you how it looks like. So self-closing text looks like this. Open the tag, and then the name of the element name for the tag, and then you may have some attributes. Now I can simply just have a / and close it. Okay, that's a self-closing tag. So now you might be wondering what would not be a self-closing tag. Okay, so what's really important about self-closing tag is that's the opening, that's the end, and over here you have some / okay, and then here you got the element, you have attributes, etc. Okay, maybe use a different color here just to avoid confusion. This is the elements, and this one and over here this is the attributes, okay, like that. Okay, that's kind of the general structure, and I'll show you some example in just a moment. What would not be a self-closing tag? So this is a self-closing tag. So what would not be a self-closing tag? You may have tags within tags. For example, you might say, I'm going to give some concrete example. Open the tag. The name of the tag, let's call it A. And then you have attributes. One is assigned to, I'll just say, for example, 1. Okay? And then I have attributes 2 is with value 2. And then attribute number 3 is with value 3. Okay? And now I close it. You can see there is no /. That's why it is not self-closing. And then I can say this is the end of the self-closing tag. I can say / and then the name of the element over here. You can see the self-closing. You can see the what really signals the closing part is over here. Okay, how is this different from a self-closing tag? That means within over here, you can just do more tags over here, okay, as the contents for this particular tag. Okay, so let's just do one for you. Okay, let's say I can have maybe another one that's called B over here, and then let me just say B and then self-closing. Okay, I have C and then self-closing. Okay, let me just switch to a very quick example over here. Over here, you can see that, let me just use one example here. You can see the button here, okay, is self-closing because you have that, right? Okay, exactly the point over here. So here, B and C, they simply have no attributes. Sometimes you may not have attributes. You can have either 0 or more attributes. Okay, so now, why is this a tree structure over here? So this is a tree structure. The way you can think of it is, we got A here, which encloses B and C. So that's a tree. And then in the case where, let's say, if B was not self-closing, so let's get rid of that. Let's say we have B over here, and then with no attributes, and then, okay, just a little bit messy here, but let's just see the point. Okay, so this is closing B over here. Okay, it's not self-closing. But now let's say under which we just got another one that's called D. And that's self-closing. So that means A contains B and C. C is self-closing. And B contains also D. over here. Okay, you can see there's a tree structure, right? Okay, let me just, for this part here, let me just draw it a little bit more properly. Okay, so you got A, which contains B and C, and B contains D. So that's a tree structure, and the tree structure can just grow as arbitrarily complicated as you wish, depending on what you need. Okay, that's kind of the basic terminology here. So let's see in this example here very quickly. Again, so this is also has a tree structure. You can see overall we have a relative layout. So that's a root. So relative layout over here is closing over here. So that's not a self-closing tag. Okay. So now over here, let's say I'll just for short, a relative layout. That's the root, and then it has several attributes over there. So what are the attributes? Let me use maybe blue for attributes. So it has, for example, this is attributes, this is attributes, this is another attribute. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 different attributes. Okay? And for this particular attribute, for example, the tools context attributes, you can see this every time if you want to specify the value for the attributes, you have to use the equal sign for assignments. Okay? And then it's equal, and then somehow the value EECS1022.BMI activity is now within the quotes. That's a value. Okay? And now you can see how many self-closing tags do we have. In this case, we have 3. Okay, hopefully you can see that. You can see this is a self-closing tag because it closes over here. This is another self-closing tag, closes here. And this, as we said, is also a self-closing tag. We got 3. So now how do we complete a tree structure? So now the relative layout has 3 children. That's kind of the terminology we say usually. So you got text view over here, which is here. And also you got edit text, which is here. And also you got the button, which is here. Okay, so you got a tree structure. Okay, so that's actually the basic introduction to how an XML file can be structured. And by the way, what does XML stand for? Okay, it stands for Extensible Markup Language. Okay, we'll see more as we move along the course, but you should really know what XML stands for and what these individual terms really mean and what a self-closing tag versus non-self-closing tags with a tree structure look like. Okay, so that you can understand the view file in your Android Studio much better, so you can get a control over it. So there might be some occasions where you may want to modify an XML file, in which case you will know where to go. But again, a very common mistake is to get rid of this without noticing it. Okay, and also you may also get rid of this without matching the original tag. Okay, so these are the 2 common mistakes.